Good evening, and thank you for joining us. Just one day after the ceasefire between Iran and the U.S. came into effect, more than 250 people died after Israel conducted strikes against Lebanon. Iran condemned Israel for violating the terms of the temporary truce and once again closed the Strait of Hormuz, stressing that it is inappropriate to enter into negotiations under current conditions. This as the U.S. called Tehran's 10 ceasefire demands unrealistic. Timothy Lee tells us more.
The warring sides have different views on whether Lebanon is included in the ceasefire. The U.S.-Israeli perspective ran contrary to Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's statement indicating that Washington, Tehran, and their respective allies had earlier agreed to include Lebanon in the two-week truce. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, meanwhile, said the world can witness Israel engaging in genocidal actions in Lebanon, adding that the ceasefire terms were clear. The Iranian Foreign Minister stressed Washington must make a choice between adhering to the terms of the truce or continuing the fight via Israel. Iranian media also reported that Tehran will pull out of the ceasefire if Israel continues its attacks on Lebanon. Speaking at an event earlier in Hungary, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance stressed the implementation of a ceasefire could be choppy.
No ceasefire ever goes without a little bit of choppiness. What we have been very clear about is that we want to stop the bombing. We're seeing evidence that things are going in the right direction, but it's going to take a little time.
Regarding the 15-point ceasefire plan proposed by Washington, U.S. President Donald Trump said his administration has yet to reach an agreement with Iranian authorities on several points, with both parties set to hold talks on issues related to tariffs and the lifting of sanctions. As for the 10-point plan earlier proposed by Iran, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt emphasized a number of Tehran's demands in the initial truce plan were unrealistic.
The Iranians originally put forward a 10-point plan that was fundamentally unserious, unacceptable, and completely discarded. It was literally thrown in the garbage by President Trump and his negotiating team. Many outlets in this room have falsely reported on that plan as being acceptable to the United States.
News about the ceasefire have also led to voices in both the U.S. and Iran claiming victory. In the latter, views were split on the latest ceasefire. Hardline voices within Iran insisted they have won the war, owing to Tehran's continual control over the Strait of Hormuz and its latest measure of charging certain vessels millions of dollars to leave the Persian Gulf. While others attending the funeral of General Majid Hademi, the chief of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Intelligence Department, condemned supporters of the truce as compromisers. But a number of world leaders remain hopeful for lasting peace. French President Emmanuel Macron hailed Iran's original decision to unblock the Strait of Hormuz, adding that Paris will continue to work on mobilizing its partners in the Middle Eastern region to implement defensive actions. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Israelis on Wednesday carried out a new wave of intensified strikes on Beirut's southern Lebanon and the eastern Bekaa Valley, killing hundreds of people, just after a shaky ceasefire was reached between the U.S. and Iran. Israel has claimed that the ceasefire deal doesn't extend to its war with the Iran-backed Hezbollah in Lebanon. Danny Zhou reports.
At least 250 people were killed and many more were injured in Israel's widespread strikes on Beirut from the afternoon into the night. Bustling commercial and residential areas were hit without warning. Black smoke towered several parts of the seaside capital where an orange flat lit up the skyline. Rescuers used bulldozers to clean up the rubble across different parts of the city the next day in their search for survivors and bodies. This as local hospitals struggled to cope with rising number of injured and were reportedly forced to appeal for blood donation. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu delivered a video message on Wednesday saying they launched the biggest blow to Hezbollah since the Pages, attacking 100 targets in 10 minutes in locations the militant group was sure were invulnerable. Hassan Hijazi in the affected Tel El-Kayet neighborhood said Israel committed crimes like it does every time and that mostly innocent people were killed in the attacks. One of the strikes targeted the Ain Merisi neighborhood and tore down a residential building there. Like many others who stayed at the scene waiting for information, this displaced resident from the south of the country explained his friend's wife and in-laws were in the damaged building at the time of the blast, but those people's whereabouts is still unknown. The United Nations Human Rights Office condemned Israel's latest offensive in Lebanon as nothing short of horrific.
Such carnage, hours after agreeing to a ceasefire with Iran, defies belief. It places enormous pressure on a fragile peace which is so desperately needed by civilians. Mass casualties have been reported and hospitals overwhelmed.
The official prompted timely, independent investigations into all alleged violations to bring those responsible to justice, pointing out efforts to bring peace to the wider region will remain incomplete as long as the Lebanese people are living under continuing fire. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
U.S. President Donald Trump asserted China is believed to have taken part in prompting Iran to return to the negotiation table. The White House said Washington and Beijing had held high-level dialogues on the issue and suggested Trump would be visiting China in the coming weeks.
There were conversations that took place between top levels of our government and China's government. The president has great respect for President Xi and a great working relationship with him and with that country, and he looks forward to visiting China in just a few weeks.
Addressing U.S. President Donald Trump's earlier remarks on the U.S. potential withdrawal from NATO, the White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt noted that the U.S. leader will meet with Secretary General of NATO Mark Rutte for a frank conversation on the matter.
I have a direct quote from the President of the United States on NATO, and I will share it with all of you. They were tested and they failed. And I would add, it's quite sad that NATO turned their backs on the American people over the course of the last 6 weeks when it's the American people who have been funding their defense. As you know, President Trump will be meeting with Secretary Rutte in a couple of hours here at the White House, and I know he looks forward to having a very frank and candid conversation with him.
Hong Kong's fishing industry says double fuel costs in recent days have forced many fishing vessels to stay ashore as expenses soar. Yet traders say fish supply in the market is expected to remain stable.
Feeling the heat from the spike in oil prices are the city's fishing fleets, with burgeoned costs and squeezed margins. Fuel expenses for a single fishing trip have jumped from around $4,700 at the start of the year to more than $10,000. Fishing sector veteran Lee Choi-wah, who has worked in the trade for over half a century, described the situation as staggering. He says if the catch isn't worth at least $10,000, they are making a loss. After the war erupted, which ramped up oil prices, many fishing fleets have scaled back or even halted sailings before the fishing moratorium, also known as a summer fishing ban, in May. Now some 70% of fishing vessels have grounded operations. Despite the disruption, Lee believes Hong Kong is unlikely to face a fish shortage in the short term. He says local aquaculture and imports from the mainland, Indonesia, Malaysia, India and Pakistan will make up for the shortfall. Authorities have introduced short-term relief measures, including fee waivers by mainland fishing associations and early applications for government loans tied to the fishing moratorium. But lawmakers say more support is necessary. Fisheries and agricultural sector lawmaker Chan Pak-chi says these measures may offer short-term relief, but a reasonable mechanism should be in place to ease the deepening financial strain. He suggested fuel subsidies to offset surging costs and support to help fishermen's transition to electric fishing vessels.
Welcome back. With the World Cup finals in June approaching, Hong Kong Customs has seized 110,000 pieces of suspected counterfeit goods, including football jerseys that were destined for regions such as South America and Africa. 3 arrests were made. Samantha Lee tells us more.
The intercepted counterfeit goods were handbags, watches, perfumes, sneakers, and also at least 10,000 football jerseys, featuring national teams competing in the World Cup. Customs officers noted the jerseys were high-quality replicas, intended for the Americas via online shopping platform, to meet massive demand from fans. The goods were worth an estimated $64 million. During a 3-week operation starting early March, the customs targeted a cross-boundary transshipment of smuggled counterfeits. By raiding logistics companies and warehouses across the new territories, 2 men and a woman were arrested. The Customs Department's Intellectual Property Transnational Investigation Division said none of the items had entered the local market. The department strongly advises members of the public to purchase goods only at reputable outlets to avoid falling victim to fraud. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
The Housing Department plans to build about 13,000 public housing units in Yuen Long South. Documents submitted to the Yuen Long District Council reveal that the project consists of 4 development zones covering a total area of 9.68 hectares. Together, these 4 sites will provide 13,800 units, 2,300 more than initially planned. The Housing Authority expects construction to begin in 2028, with the project slated for completion in phases between 2032 and 2034. A sudden voltage drop occurred in several districts of Hong Kong Island this morning, resulting in about 100 reports of people trapped in elevators. The Customs headquarters building in North Point was affected, with some elevators malfunctioning. Firefighters arrived at the scene to check if anyone was trapped. Some escalators at the Queensway government offices also stopped operating. The incident occurred at about 9:30 a.m., with several districts on Hong Kong Island experiencing a sudden voltage drop. Firefighters received numerous reports of people being trapped in elevators in Central and Western District, Wan Chai, North Point, Shau Kei Wan, and Chai Wan. Hong Kong Electric said the voltage drop was caused by a fault at an interconnection circuit with CLP power. Santin Highway in Yuen Long saw 2 traffic accidents within an hour last night. After an initial car crash, a multi-vehicle pileup happened amid the ensuing traffic, resulting in 1 death and 16 injuries.
The first accident happened at around 10 p.m. on Wednesday when 2 private cars and a taxi traveling toward Shengshui collided near Chukyun Village. 8 people sustained minor injuries. Traffic in the area became congested. About 45 minutes later, a green minibus traveling in the middle lane approached the tail end of the traffic queue and allegedly failed to brake in time. It crashed into a truck ahead, which was pushed forward into 2 other vehicles, while another truck in an adjacent lane was also affected. The minibus mangled at the front with debris scattered across the road. Its 49-year-old driver trapped inside was extricated and rushed to hospital. He was later certified dead. The driver said traffic had been at a standstill for around a few minutes before the collision unfolded. 7 men and 1 woman are among the injured, including minibus passengers and those in other vehicles. More investigations are underway.
The Water Supplies Department plans to use drones to replace manual labor for collecting freshwater testing samples. It will also introduce a robot dog for water plant inspections, making the work safer. Samantha Low has more.
Stored in the Plover Cove Reservoir, Hong Kong's 2nd largest reservoir by capacity, the Dongjiang water is treated before being supplied to residents in Sha Tin, Central Kowloon and other areas. The testing of water quality rely on staff going out by boat to collect samples, but the department has a new plan to use drones instead. When approaching the water surface, a plastic container drops from the drone to collect the 1-liter water sample.
Time saving is significant because as you can see, we use a drone to take a sample. Maybe within half an hour, we can take a sample. But if we go to take a sample using the boat, it's taking an hour.
The drone is professional grade and can be used in foggy or light rain conditions, but it cannot be used under the number 3 strong wind condition or even more windy situations. The department said the trial for drone-based water sampling cost several $100,000, and it is still coordinating details with the Civil Aviation Department in hopes of putting the technology to use this year. The department's new colleague also includes the 6-legged robotic dog, which can patrol water treatment plants along preset routes. It is estimated to start working in late April.
We can avoid humans to exposed to dangerous area when carrying out inspection. 6-leg is more stable from what we observed when going across like high heels or go upstairs. I think the performance is much better than 4 legs.
The images and data collected by the robotic dog are transmitted directly to the control room, where an AI system analyzes them. After completing its task, the robotic dog returns to its charging dock. The department has also introduced a welding robot that can perform repair tasks on water pipes, cutting the time required for each task by half when compared to manual operations. Samantha Low, TVB News.
Exams for the core subject of Chinese language commenced in the Hong Kong Diploma of Secondary Education examination today. Some candidates arrived early at an exam venue in Siu-Sai-Wan. Over 51,000 students registered for the DSE Chinese language subject, of which 44,000 were day school students. The morning exam consisted of reading and writing papers. Exam questions included issues related to artificial intelligence. Some candidates felt nervous, as many believe Chinese language is the hardest subject of them all. Chen Li-wen, chairwoman of Taiwan's largest opposition party, the Kuomintang, continues her visit in the mainland. During her visit to the world's largest automated container port in Shanghai today, apart from commending Shanghai's vitality while recalling the city's wartime history and subsequent transformation, the KMT chairwoman also urged people on both sides of the Taiwan Strait to remain committed to peaceful development. The KMT delegation departed Shanghai for Beijing today afternoon.
Day 3 of Chen Li-wen's 6-day trip to the mainland. She and her delegation visited Shanghai's Yangshan Deep Water Port, the world's largest container terminal with domestically developed, fully automated cargo system, accompanied by Chen Binghua, director of the Information Bureau of the Taiwan Affairs Office of the State Council. In a plea for peace, Chen says birds, not missiles, should fly in the skies, fish, not warships, should sail in the sea, and technology should be tapped to seek the well-being of society instead of mutual destruction. Chen also quoted in English part of John McCrae's World War I poem In Flanders Fields.
If you break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep.
Underscoring the importance of peace, Chen says we may not have been able to give our ancestors peace, but we can certainly still give peace to the people of today and the people of the future. At noon, she also met with around 300 Taiwanese business representatives based in Shanghai. Expressing understanding that the business community has felt aggrieved over the cross-strait relations in recent years. She says KMT places great importance on Taiwanese enterprises in the mainland and will continue working to ensure a stable business environment. Wrapping up the Shanghai leg, the delegation set off for Beijing in the afternoon.
Voters in key states and regions in India began casting ballots Thursday in local elections seen as a test of support for Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his BJP party. The elections pit BJP and its regional allies against a range of opposition parties. Assam and Puducherry are governed by the BJP-led National Democratic Alliance, while Kerala is ruled by the opposition. 2 other opposition-ruled states, West Bengal and Tamil Nadu, will vote later this month. The results for all 5 regions are expected on May 4th. The polls come while the public is concerned about rising energy costs and tightening gas supplies due to the war in the Middle East. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.